here, and today we have a new episode in the art review series. And today we'll be checking out the work of JaeKwang Park. I found this guy through Instagram, and pretty much all of these photos are from his page, his Instagram page. He's very similar to Kim Jung-gi. I think they're from the same group, Super Annie. It's a South Korean art guild group thing. So I'm super glad that I found his work, because even if it's similar to Kim Jung-gi, I think he's kind of his own thing, which I do like. He's a good example of how you can look like someone in terms of your style, but you can still be distinct at the same time. Because I've referenced plenty of artists that kind of, or whose style is very similar to other artists, but they still have their own thing. And I think JaeKwang Park is a good example of that. He mostly does his work traditionally. I've never seen a like a digital piece. It's mostly done on paper, pretty much all of it. And the process is usually like I'm guessing, I haven't seen a video of his process, but we do have one pencil sketch here, so I'm assuming he does a pencil sketch in the beginning, and then he solidifies it with some ink work. And then I do know that he loves to use the alcohol base markers. For example, I think he uses the Copic markers especially. I mean, there are plenty of alcohol base markers, but Copic is it's like the big name marker. And what's so cool about his work is that, oh, by the way, in the end, after he does the marker renderings, I think he uses I'm guessing a color pencil to add in some highlights. And maybe some gel pens, some white gel pens to add some even more sharper highlights. But yeah, he has a very consistent looking style, which I do like. And he has a lot of work, which is impressive. For Kim Jung-gi, he does more drawings and stuff. But I think for JaeKwang Park, he does a lot of more finished stuff. And you'll notice in the background, he doesn't like fill up the backgrounds. It's rare for him to do that. For example, for this piece, this is the Howl's Moving Castle anime film. This one, the background is colored, but it's a fan art piece of The Matrix. I remember seeing this scene, and I'm glad that he was able to capture this moment. It was a very, but I think it still is a very iconic moment in film history. Like, basically these guys are clones, and then Neo has to face them all. Like, they keep multiplying, and one after another, like, he finds a way to fight off these they're essentially viruses in the film. But look at how finished it looks. First of all, it's done on paper traditionally, so that's impressive. So it's kind of hard to not, or to me, I'm kind of afraid to make mistakes whenever I do things traditionally, because there is no undo, there is no layering system. You have to be more careful, and that alone, I think, is what makes his work even more attractive or iconic. Now, he did have to blur this, because on Instagram, it's I've seen not safe for work artists post their work there, but sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. Like, it's not very clear what the rules are exactly. So to be safe, I recommend just blurring out or not even posting these sorts of things, because it's kind of, maybe on Twitter it's better, but Instagram. But I do like the figures, heavy on the human anatomy. And most of his work is just character art, essentially, with some, like, in very dynamic positions. Some of them are flying, running, and he likes to add this comic type of text. Sometimes he'll even write out the like the sound effects. It's very common in like manga or comic, like sequential art. And it's rare, at least for his Instagram, like, he doesn't really post much these sorts of like sketches or drawings. Most of his work is like fully finished. And in a way, they look a lot like they're ready for publication. Like, these could be posters, prints, covers. Like, one of his pieces ended up being like a Copic like cover for the markers. Like, this piece is the one here, I think. It's very impressive, by the way. So look at how full and finished it looks. And kind of like Kim Jung-gi, like they try to fill up the pages full of characters, Even if it's just one character, if it's just one figure, they'll add way more stuff. For example, this chick has some octopus type of tentacles. This guy has a lot of stuff with him. Like there's always more to it, you know. Like this piece could be like a poster or a print, right? Or a book cover or album cover. And if you'll notice in the outlines, he does color it. So it has an Art Nouveau vibe. And these sorts of things can be actually transformed or used as stickers just because of the cleanliness, the clean edges, and everything else kind of like white. So you can always make this into some kind of PNG and stuff. Like it's so finished. So it's kind of like it's just nice to look at. This type of artwork isn't really in my lane because I'm more sketchier, more painterly, more impressionistic. So this is kind of out of my usual stuff, but I still do like it. Lots of tattoos. So even if the pose is kind of cool, but just adding some tattoos, adding some story within the figure through tattoos, I think it helps. And again, the text. So even if these two sketches are like single heads, just the expression, the amount of wrinkles, the facial expressions, like you need to have something to carry a single head. Same thing here, simple pose but with some tattoos. You can add a bit of story, same thing here. Simple pose, but just by adding that, or the idea of tattoos usually means that they're kind of like a rebellious kind of person, kind of in the fringes of society, right? So this is like a study, educational class perhaps. A thank you for 40,000K, maybe in Instagram, I think. Sometimes we'll add like certain graphical elements in the background, like blobs to kind of just fill in that negative space, the white negative space. And again, I think the anatomy, human anatomy is pretty good. Very playful, kind of like Kim Jung-gi. And a lot of his work or characters feel so free, like they're alive and moving, and they're kind of like jumping out of the page. Like it's very similar to, I think in the comic industry, they call it splash art. Is it splash art? Or is it the comic industry? Like sometimes in games too, I think it's also called splash art, where it's like designed to be very dynamic, and it's like a keyframe. It's supposed to represent like the story or the game, or the narrative you're trying to yeah, very cool stuff. And you can tell, I think the color pencil was used for the highlights, and maybe some gel pens, who knows. But again, you can see that outline, that green outline. Reminds me of, I did an art review recently of 7-7. He does the same thing, although his work is done in Photoshop mainly. Same thing for my Input Woe. I mentioned him before. He does the whole outline thing. And for my Input Woe, I know he does a lot of like graffiti types of elements, like graphical elements in the background to kind of complement his figures. JaeKwang Park does the same, but he doesn't really use graphical elements, maybe some blobs here and there. But the main thing, I think, or the most consistent thing, is the text. He likes to write out or draw out the text, sound effects, obviously his name, the date, even just adding those things. It's kind of part of the piece as well. Like knowing where to put it, knowing where to put your signature can help add to the look of the piece. Look at how finished it looks. Even the sound effects, or sorry, the power effects here, they're also outlined. So like this thing is perfect for, again, being stickers, because you can always like quick select this whole white thing. Obviously you have to scan it. I've noticed that he does take photos instead of scan. I'm not sure why. Maybe these originals are for sale. I'm not sure, but I don't know. I mean, I get it. It's much faster, but yeah. So this one's more of a quick sketch of David, the famous Greek statue by, I forgot who. And look at how the pages are often filled, even if it's one character or a full scene of multiple characters. The page feels full, even with this negative white space. Having this amount of proportions in terms of positive and negative space, or having the right proportions, can help just balance things out. For example, for this piece, you have multiple figures, but it seems filled. Frank Frazetta, I've seen a video of Frank Frazetta, an interview, and he talks about how sometimes like he doesn't always plan the whole piece. He'll maybe think of one part, and then oftentimes he'll find like a negative space that's a bit too big, so he'll try to find a way to kind of balance things out. So you don't always have to think of the entire thing all at once. You can just kind of work with one thing and then build off of that previous thing. And maybe add some blobs, some text, your signature. This one's pretty cool. I think it's from Nier Automata, yeah. I forgot this character's name. I think it's a game. I've seen the anime, but not fully because it kind of stopped for a period. Eventually, I want to rewatch it, like all the way. Because the character designs look amazing, the black and white kind of vibe, black, gray, white. And yeah. So that's it for this art review of JaeKwang Park. I will link all of the links in the description below. And yeah, hopefully enjoy this art review. I'll see you in the next one. Bye.